Hi, welcome everyone to today's Audit Tuesday. We are extremely excited to be hosting this Audit Tuesday for two reasons. One, we have a very distinguished guest, Eldon Sprickerhoff, founder of not only E-Sentire, but the category of Managed Detection and Response, known as MDR. And two, we want to announce our now patented AI Identity Trust Score technology for MSPs. Lots of excitement and lots to cover. First, Eldon, why don't you tell us a little about E-Sentire and the MDR space you introduced to the market many years back?
Okay. Thanks, Bill. So I started E-Sentire in near the end of 2001, sort of out of the ashes of the dot bomb phenomenon, as and originally as an information security boutique shop, which evolved quickly into a security service provider. I said eventually the processes that I created in my previous gig evolved and sort of became, with full network traffic capture that had forensic level analysis. Uh, we had customized deep packet inspection, DPI modules, pulling data in from multiple sources, and some out of band network interception techniques that we created and patented uh, that permitted defense against attackers. And it basically allowed us to do live incident response and attacker engagement. And at the time, we were calling it embedded incident response or collaborative threat management. And the tactics that I'm talking about were eventually rebranded by Gartner as managed detection and response, or MDR, as you call
Right. And one of the main advantages of E-Sentire was helping the enterprise address the risk of hacking vulnerabilities, correct?
it. That's correct. So I guess the original intent was to provide customers the capabilities to respond to attacks in the here and now. So basically, permitting a security analyst to act as incident response handlers, reviewing attacks in real time and use the sort of OODA loop methodology to engage and intercept the attackers instead of what it would normally take. Somebody was hacked, you call an incident response team, and it would take them 12, 24 hours to get on site and start fighting. So they could intercept in the here and now. Uh, we'd also cross correlate details of existing vulnerabilities within client infrastructure with the actual behavior that we observed in real time.
Right. And Garrett, there's a key concept in security and the business of cybersecurity called KPIs and KRIs. Can you speak a little about that?
Yeah, KPIs, key performance indicators, and KRIs, key risk indicators. And our industry has to be thankful for people like Eldon. And I mean this because I had a good coffee with Eldon when I was up in Toronto. And, well, truth be being told, I used to live in Toronto and knew Eldon way back when. But, and we talked, and he talked to me, which was really, really helpful. And that's why, if Eldon turns his head, that's his book. Okay. So he has the whole story of it. Okay. But basically, he was saying, hold it. We're all doing stuff in security. One thing I always rant about security is there's no like everyone, well, we got to educate our security people more. Guys, we got the smartest people in the world. And I'll argue that against anything. Okay. The security people are smart. Okay. We don't always communicate what we're doing very well to the rest of the enterprise. And there's there's reasons why, because there's industries that fight us, right? When Eldon came up with the MDR, and he can say that he came up with managed detection response, Gartner told him that wasn't a category. You're like, no, that's not true. Yes, guys, get the book. Okay. That's a true story. Okay. So what the industry in its good way, and I've been doing a lot of readings and stuff to basically help express what YouAttest does. But now there's things called KPIs and KRIs, key performance indicators. Okay. Key performance indicators, how everyone that's called, everyone listening is in the security or compliance world, right? we communicate to the greater organization. We say, hey, there's these objectives, the strategy and the objective of the company, and we are quantifying the work that we are doing, us security people, in a measurable way so we can report up. That's a key performance indicator, okay? And then there's concept of key risk indicator. It's like, hey, organization, I got it. Everyone's running around, end of year quota, everyone's doing this, all that. These are our top 5. You name the number companies, you're good at this. That's your organization. But these are our top 5, key risks. We've got to worry about our identities, we got to worry about our devices, whatever. And this is where the world's going. We in the companies like YouAttest have to be providing you with indicators, measurable indicators that you can not only, and I mean it, and it's important, get the budget for your projects, but then show demonstrative effort and progress to the board. And you guys in Bill's world, he heads the channel, and that's what he's really good at. So you guys should all talk to him. That's how you in the MSP and the managed service world talk back to your customers in a positive way, not in the Chicago way. When I say talk back, what I mean is is hey, we are doing the work that you asked us. You were at this level when you took us on. We've taken you to these levels. Okay. So KPIs and KRIs are going to be crucial to our conversation as we go forward, not only in this call, but on subsequent calls when you talk to YouAttest, et cetera. Take it away, Bill.
Yeah, so this is key to both enterprises and now more importantly to the MSPs. So Eldon, you have ample experience in this space. Do KPIs and KRIs matter to the MSPs and more importantly to their clients?
So I think at the base level, okay, we can agree that infosec, cybersecurity, whatever you want to call it, it's ephemeral, and as such, it's difficult to communicate the benefits and threats. So it's really important to get a sense, within your client base, what metrics are important, why they're appropriate, how they can drift, and how they apply to the mission of the company in question. And I think they're especially of importance in regulated environments, especially when you have engaged board members, especially if they sit on sort of the subgroups of sort of finance risk compliance that we see more and more of these years.
Okay, so you agree that in the future, all security personnel must be educated in the concept of KPIs and KRIs to communicate the threat and work of their teams to the execs.
Well, I think it's essential to the success and the existence of the MSP, right? If you can't accurately define your client's security status or stance, and the effect that these defensive measures that you've imposed on the environment, you're going to find it very, very difficult to measure, justify the value of the services that are rendered.
I like what you said, Eldon, and I not in love with MSPs, and we're talking to them a lot. It's not enough to say, yeah, I got your anti-malware, we got that across your guys, or whatever. Now we have to say, hold it, we got a security whole enterprise.
Do you think the MSPs are there now? Are they ready for the tools that help them quantify the security and of the enterprise through measurable metrics?
So I'd say it's generally a continuum, right? It's an ongoing process. I think MSPs right now, I think they're building up their security practice, and part of that is to be a differentiator among others. In that helps to answer the question that they're often asked, which is, why should we work with you specifically, right? What are your differentiators from every other MSP that's out there? And so if you're not building that kind of tooling that can help support your cause, you will find it very difficult to explain what's your differentiators. Why should someone go with you?
Okay. And Garrett, as a product builder, what are your thoughts around the KPIs, KRIs?
I give it a whole webinar about what product builders leave out. Okay. I mean, and I mean that, and I wasn't patting myself on the back there. And Eldon, I'm sure you got stories as well. I built a product called SecureAuth, which was the first two-factor IDP. Okay, and you're like, okay, for you guys, identity a provider. Basically, what it is, their AD is now today, and what Okta, all wonderful products, Jump Cloud, etc. You know, something in the cloud. You keep your identities, redirect your applications into two-factor. I left out auditing in that. Wasn't a single line of code in auditing in that thing. And it's like, I'm not saying that like, yeah, I'm wonderful. No, as a product builder, it was straight out. I'm focused on the mission of two-factor authentication and SSO, right? So do I believe that now in 2025, that we as product builders have to start providing metrics for the people to use this so they can communicate to their customers? Yes. Yes. And are we there yet, Bill? Not even close. I don't think the products are there at all yet. And then so what we do is we leave the poor guys who are running these things scrambling to come up with ways to communicate that they're doing their job. Bill knows I got a great slide that I use for in whatever, where this wonderful woman, Cynthia Stamer, looks at the audience and says, and she was talking to CISOs, I can't defend you. She's a defense lawyer. She's a defense lawyer for companies. She looks at the audience and says, I can't defend you. You guys don't keep the evidence around that you're actually doing your work. Okay? And that's where I really believe in 2025. We got to do a better job of the evidence of what the work we're doing, because of goofy lawyers and regulators, right? And we have to do a better job of metrics on the work we're doing so we communicate to the boards and our own companies so they can get the value of what we're doing. And that's extremely relevant to the managed service providers. So to answer your question, Bill, yeah, I think we got to do a better job.
Okay, well, that's a lead into, let's talk about identities. So why do identities matter for the enterprises and the MSPs?
Yeah, well, I'll start. Because it's the number one way we're being hacked. And it's in the heck with, you know, my thoughts or whatever like that. There is even the American CISA has gotten behind it. That's our cyber security and infrastructure security agency. They use security twice in that. It's funny. Anyways, they're a $3 billion organization that goes around with nothing better to do than to educate the world on how to do better practices. They have glommed on in a good way and defined zero trust. Because if you want to hear me really rant, okay, outside of just, you know, what my son's doing, I can, my real rant is around what zero trust, and that's, he's a good kid. Don't send this to him. Okay, so it is zero trust, guys, and I'll say it straight out to the audience. It was invented around identity. If someone's going to say to me, zero trust is a network thing, that's just insane. It's like, say your feet they were there because we need shoes. No, your feet are there to make you walk. You put shoes on them. And that's the way I look at zero trust. Zero trust is an identity principle that's basically saying we're doing a shitty job authorization. Okay? And I'm an identity guy, and that's what zero trust is about. What it means is we authenticate in the beginning. Okay, and I got 13 patents in authentication, so I know a little about that space. And then to trust that going on in the rest of the environment of things is not only asinine, it's basically why you're being hacked. Okay, where zero trust looks at that and says, what we need to do is at every step of the equation, of the identity equation, where we mapped the, you know, and I like the word, basically the ephemeral, you know, identity, which was authenticated, and then we translate it to the session that lives. And that session has to be communicated to the web server, has to be communicated to the database server, and that has to be communicated to proxy that happens to take out 3 terabytes, which I just saw on Monday. Someone had 3 terabytes of data stolen. Why wasn't that identity rechecked? That's what zero trust is. Zero trust is not a network concept. It is a concept that we're constantly inspecting. We're constantly inspecting the identity associated with the action with whatever value we can get to. And that gets to the identity trust score. How can we inspect the identity in a real time after the authentication, right? How do we inspect that if we don't have a score? And that's what YouAttest has created and patented, and we'll be showing demos of that today.
Okay. Well, for the MSPs that are focused on security, Eldon, do you see identities as a challenge they have to take on?
Yeah, it's look, I've said it many times. In the practice of cybersecurity, I think and I think Garrett can speak to this. Like identity is the head of the snake, right? If you can control the head of the snake, you can control the whole body.
Okay. Well, do you think
Um, sorry,
I
sorry, I
was going
broke
to
out
say,
there for a second.
oh, do you think the MSPs are doing a good job on identity security? Not just the provisioning and two-factor, but permissions and entitlements of those identities.
Yeah,
Basically
I
what
think
they
it.
expect us to.
Yeah, I think it varies from firm to firm. I think less mature MSPs are are sort of trying to focus on very well trod paths, right? Of antivirus, endpoint, SIM, maybe vulnerability assessments, VAs, sort of the ground that MSSPs used to play, and less likely to address the identity question. They should, but it's still, again, I think it varies from firm to firm.
Well, why do you think some of them are failing? I mean, especially around identity management, security and governance.
Yeah, I would guess I'd hazard a guess and think that they're only now sort of catching up to what is actually relevant cybersecurity rigor. Um, like when you start with the block and tackle of multi-factor authentication, backups, patching, anti-spam. Um, I think if you don't have sufficient sort of security knowledge or foresight, you might think you could just check that box and you don't have to worry anymore about cybersecurity.
Okay. So, Garrett, what are your thoughts around the identity threat and risks that the MSPs face now? Oh,
Garrett, if you were
you're
to
muted.
unmute.
Oh, there you go. I got muted. Yeah, is that's it's once again, us as vendors have to be providing the tools for the MSPs, and it's part and parcel of their job to be handling this stuff, and it is, and it's I'm not knocking anyone. It is this, that they had a mission 10 years ago, which was they took very seriously, and I worked at a company called Silence, and they did did their mission to provide things like endpoint detection, and then they took on much better control over thanks to people like Eldon, in the managed detection and response space. And I think the MSPs have done a real good job there. And I think now the next frontier is identity.
Okay. You want to show a few slides of what we
Yeah.
offer the MSPs?
Okay. All
It's
good.
the share button in the middle.
Yeah, there you go. Thank you very much. And all okay, here we go. This is what we have provided for not only the enterprises, we've done 3.7 million, but now the MSPs can do this. Okay, and this is what we did. And this is, think about this, MSPs, for your environment. Think about this for your entire organization. Okay, so this is the enterprise. Some guy there, and I always call him Bob, or my buddy Kelly, who I always think of in human terms. Some guy there, and he knows his stuff. And like I said, I'm a big believer in security people. Everyone's smart. They're just got too much work to do. Okay, so you get all these regulations, guidances, and frameworks. Okay, then, and you have all these identities. This becomes you, the MSP. You become the adult in the room. You know what the biggest problem is? And you can, we got all the materials, and all you have to do is look up identity thefts and the, Verizon data breach incident report or whatever you want. We all know that identity is a real problem. So we gotta lock down your identities. We've got to get rid of your orphan accounts. We got to get rid of your ghost accounts. We've got to do a better job of entitlements. I mean, little survey by Palo Alto. Unit 42, their hacking group, and that's, in a good way, their pro hacking group, is stated that 99% of cloud entitlements are over permissive. That's not me. That's their number. So you become the adult in the room. You say, listen, I'm going to imbibe your identity. I got a tool that I got this automated. It happens to be YouAttest. You can say it or not. I don't care. What's relevant is what you're doing is you're taking our tool and then it goes out. That day when you're sending out those stupid spreadsheets and coming up with those spreadsheets on the weekends and your wife's mad at you or your husband's mad at you, either way, this gets rid of that. This automates. What this does is automate the access review process. And like I said, we've done 3.7 million and taken on every, way and how. There's no coding. It's just automated. And then those wonderful managers, the line managers, which pretty much, your ISACA, CISM, and CISA certifications say you should be doing, the line managers approve the roles, or they don't. They revoke the roles. And that goes back, and that's what the product does. It goes back to the IAM and revokes the roles, or they redelegate it out. Either way, you have the cleaned up enterprise, and then you have the identity attestation report. Okay. And that is all handled. And then that report not only is internal, but external in your compliance.
All right. Well, thanks for that. So let's get to the meat of the conversation. Let's talk AI, especially AI for identity and how they can help the MSPs with this technology. First, you, Eldon. Do you think the MSPs are going to have to embrace AI to stay on top of the threats to their customer base?
So, the easy answer is yes. I think to get into a little more detail, there's no connected business that exists today that will be able to escape the use of AI, right? However you want to define it down to machine learning or models or whichever it is. So whether it's into your workflow to secure it all while you're streamlining process or improving efficiency or friendliness or outreach. But it doesn't seem necessarily obvious at this very moment how anyone should start embracing it as well, because again, it's still very new. I think there's a few interesting projects that are going on right now, which will help to tighten up that messaging. I think going and the deliverables and the again, what's the outcome we're hoping to get in with respect to AI in identity.
All right. So have you seen the adoption? Have you seen MSPs eager to embrace AI?
Yeah, I've seen a couple of sort of very early forays, sort of forward-thinking MSPs where they're incorporating that tooling into clients' workflow. So beyond chat, which is kind of passe these days, so it's like, but automating tasks, handling HR, talent management, doing digs into CRM integration for client outreach. It's still, I'd say, kind of the Wild West out there, and at the edges of the frontier, there's a lot of interesting things going on. But I can't say that I've seen a majority of MSPs using AI within a cybersecurity context.
All right. And Garrett, given you've created a few AI technologies, including YouAttest's own identity trust score, what have you seen the reactions from MSPs? You're on mute.
Don't me wrong. There's that famous, I don't know if it's New York Times or whatever one, and we all know it. That image of the medieval guy going to the king, with the machine gun, saying, "Hey, take a look at this." And then the king's going, "No, I'm too busy in my battle." Right? I mean, maybe I should have that, available, but you guys see it. Not saying what the Bill and Garrett show has been doing is showing people, hey, this is a better way to manage your business. This is a better way. And I wouldn't say it's immediate, but eventually, they get another one, they get to spend another weekend, with doing their access reviews manual. They get another hack of overprivileged accounts, and eventually people come to it. But that's the way I see it. It does take, and I don't know. Eldon wrote a book on it, guys, right? It takes it takes consistency. It takes those 12, 14-hour days, 7 days a week of keep telling the story, right? And to be blunt, do you have to do a little I told you so's? Yeah, I kind of believe it. Okay. Because everyone's trying to handle things and address things, but the people who are managing stuff have to be interrupted. They have to, sometimes change their ways. And that's what, webinars like this and, our messaging, our blogs, our traveling is about, is interrupting the way people are currently doing things and then saying there is a better way. So, Bill, to answer your question, yeah, it's a process.
Do you want to walk us through that newly patented identity trust score?
Absolutely. There you go. And I want to give great shout outs to the world of volleyball tournaments. And that sounds like an odd one, a non sequitur, but that's pretty much what I do when I'm at volleyball tournaments when my daughter's not playing, is just write patents.
Right, patents.
So there you go. Bill, am I showing the right screen?
Yes, you are.
There you go. Blind squirrel finds a nut. There you go. So here's the concept of it, right? You got, this is what you have. Now, this is 2025. This isn't 1998 when I invented SecureOff. Everyone's got an IAM. Okay, you do. You've got Okta, you got Jump Cloud, you got Ping, you've got, Entra ID. They're all great. And they are great products, y'all. I'm a big fan of them. Okay. So the concept is you have that. And as someone they interrupted me, which is God bless them, and they said, Garrett, the reason why IAM is important is they are the head of the stake of identity. They are the head, and I like that. I go, wow, that's a good one. And what he meant by that is like, listen, yes, we have identities all over the place here and here and here, but your enforcement point. You're basically, I gotta get someone on Slack. I gotta get someone on Convex or Concave. I gotta get them on this application. I gotta give them this. You go to your IAM, you move them to a group, and voila, now they have access, right? And if you're not, that's how we're doing things. We're focusing on that as the enforcement point. So I said, why don't we pull the groups and the roles and the identities from there, right? And then come up with information on those roles and entitlements. And so what we did is we pulled, to begin with, and there's more coming, things like overprivileged users via group anomalies, overprivileged users, right? And how you do that? Well, AI is pretty good at that, right? Because what it does is it helps us understand that, okay, you're in this group, but you got all these anomaly groups. So that's basically what we did with the AI part. And it worked, and we can show clustering, and it's wonderful. Then there's stuff that, as an AI guy, and I was inventing AI products, is Bill alerted to all the way back to 2014, at a company that was wonderful, it is wonderful, Silence. We take stuff that's not AI based. And I'm a big believer in that. The segregation of duties. To hell with the AI guys. You know what the privileges should be in your organization. Someone does. Someone knows that the finance guy, the sales guy should not also have access to the finance. So why not put that into a score that's telling you about the trust? The concept here being, security people, is we all know the cyber kill chain, right? Cyber kill chain says, what's the first thing you're going to do? You're going to get on, and once you're on, you're going to escalate your privileges. The hackers don't play nice. They're not worried about SOD rules. Okay. They go left, they go right, they go top, they go bottom. And that's where the identity trust score gets in. And now this is what my dear friend Ernie in the patent office, I don't think his name's Ernie, but I think of him that way. Ernie in the patent office looked at our patent and said, hold it. No one's ever said what we should do in an identity trust score is actually take, what's the last time you reviewed this user, right? So if you're letting this user take 3 terabytes of data out of your organization, don't you think you should have looked at the privileges recently of this user and see if he's overprivileged and should even have rights for that? And let alone maybe have a policy that, you re-authenticate. That's what we did. So we spent 5 years of our lives perfecting user access reviews so we can come up with a metric to imbibe it into an identity trust score that basically says, hey, I'll trust this user because his privileges are right, he doesn't have SOD, and we just reviewed this account, a couple of weeks ago, and you can do your own things. And that's where we go into the demo, that's what you'll see. Basically what we have is now you have a dashboard of your users, right? And your users of how much you can trust. Now this is internal. Now, since webinars are really just designed for people to rant, let me just say this, okay? This is CISA, an organization I actually like, Cybersecurity Infrastructure Security Agency, and they spend more time in their work than they did in naming their company or their enterprise, is they say that when we're in the current state, your traditional, your spreadsheets, your whatever, you are at the traditional. Now you get something like YouAttest, right? Or you get your wonderful MSP to help you manage it, right? Then you get yourself up to the initial. You put on our triggers that automatically alert you when a privilege changes. You get up to advanced. Okay, here and listen to this, and whatever. YouAttest will not take you to optimal, nor will any other vendor. Okay, the optimal state of zero trust when it comes to identity governance is when other products start working together. This is where we need to go. And as I always said, we have an identity trust score, and we'll be working with other vendors to pass that trust, that real-time trust, over to an enforcement point, be it an Okta, be it whatever, right? And they basically take that score and then enforce it. That's where the world needs to go. That's when we can start making decisions based in real time, is that we all start collaborating together. And that's where I believe is not only the goal of zero trust, but also how we start making our environment secure.
Great. Kasha, if you want to show a quick demo of the product?
Sure, that's what I'm here for. So let me just go ahead and share my screen. Please let me know when you have the visual.
We do.
Great. So you're looking at YouAttest dashboard. Something that we have built into this dashboard recently is the identity trust score, as we've been discussing that. But the tool itself helps you do your user access review, get integrated into your IAMs, be it Okta, Azure AD, Jump Cloud, Ping One, or so forth. And then we plug into those platforms to pull the entitlements, just the metadata into YouAttest to show you who has got what type of access and how much privileges. And then you can either certify, agree to it, or you can revoke by disagreeing to it. And finally, you get the report out to the auditors that this is what we have been doing for the last 1 month or so. If it's because it's not manual, otherwise you would be saying this is what we've been doing for the last 6 months. So now let me click on Identity Trust Score. What does it comprise of? It has, for now, to start with, it has 3 components. One is the segregation of duty violation, right? The other one is when was these users last reviewed, and the last one for now is the group anomaly. If anyone has access privilege as compared to the other users in the same group, that's where it will show the anomaly. So we take these 3 into consideration and build or calculate that risk score for any customer's environment. And there's more to come. And we just started with these 3 just to show you this score. What happens is segregation of duties, since it's a vast subject and there are so many policies that we cannot cover each and every one of those, and every policy and every organization, these things vary. That's why we have built a rule-based segregation of duty module where any client can design rules based on application access or group access. And they can say, well, when I create an audit, let's say finance group audit, if you find anyone from sales or marketing in that group, go ahead and flag that user. And that's what YouAttest will do. As soon as you create your audit, your group audit, your application audit, apply this rule to that audit, it will flag the users that don't belong there, right? Then same is the case with the group, same is the case with the application. As soon as it finds a user that it can flag, it will show it over here that there is one violation around segregation of duties in the audit that you've created in the past so many days. The other one is the group anomaly, which is directly coming from your IAM. So you are creating groups to give access to your users instead of like giving direct access to every user identity out there, which will be a bit, risky, not a bit risky, too risky. But what you need to do is create a group and then assign privileges to that group. So whoever becomes a member of that group will inherit those permissions. And as soon as somebody tries to escalate or somebody's privileges are escalated within the same group, it will become an anomaly, which will be shown here in YouAttest because YouAttest will be plugged into that IAM. It will be coming directly from the platform. And the last one is, since YouAttest is a tool that you use to review the user access, any identity that has got access to resources, you can see when was the last time these identities were reviewed. A month ago, last week, or 3 months ago, whatever the rule you set. So for example, you set a rule that every identity should be reviewed every 30 days. Any identity that goes beyond 30 days without being reviewed will be in violation and will pose a high risk to the environment. And that's what we show. So if I show it to you by expanding upon the group anomaly, for example, for this demo, it shows you the low risk users. I mean, you don't have to worry about those, but as soon as it shows high, just click on those and it will show you why that user is at high risk, because this user exhibits deviation of greater than 90% compared to the other users within the same group based on their assigned applications. So what do we do to remediate those threats? Okay, in this case, remove the user from this, and this application, and it will come down from high risk to low risk because now it will match the privileges of the other users within the same group. So this is what we are at today. But in future, it's on our roadmap on 2025 or so. We are going to add a functionality here that any high or medium risk user, we will be able to create a review or audit out of that risk and assign it to somebody within the organization to go ahead and mitigate or just deal with that and try to bring it down to low or no risk. And that's what we have on our roadmap. Same is the case with the SOD and last reviewed, but we can add more of these components to the.
Great.
Good stuff there,
Thank you
Kasha.
for that, Kasha. Yeah, and so Garrett, YouAttest offers MSPs a way to manage the identity permission risks with YouAttest across all their clients, correct?
Absolutely. The concept here is, and this is the way the world's going, is that it just too much on the enterprises, and especially after, all the IT budget cutting of 23, 24, right? Bill and I in the team, and obviously Eldon in his career, are all big fans of managed services. We just believe it. We believe in the concept that you train an FTE and you get him up to speed, and then he takes his skills and his abilities and his passion across multiple enterprises. And that's why we've taken this product, which we have, direct customers, and we do still sell it direct, but the focus and our passion is around in taking it on managed service providers and consulting services, training them on this, and it's a one-to-many. And we believe in the model and we believe in the development. If you look at our roadmaps and what we do, it's all based on working with the MSPs and taking their input. So the answer is yes, Bill.
Great. And one thing I'm going to add here is that, for the MSPs out there, with YouAttest, there's no upfront costs. So
Okay.
let's say you have a customer that wants to run a quarterly audit or twice a year or once a year. You can have our our MSP tenant sitting there for 3 months. You don't get charged for it. But when you use the licenses, you get a bill the next month. And it's very easy to use. And what you want to do is try to build us into your security and compliance practices and roll us into your offerings at a very low price. So Kashif, you want to show them what the portal looks like?
Oh, the MSP.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, we're always doing that. Eldon, what's your thoughts about technologies we should start building for the managed service providers?
So, without answering your question correctly, the thing I was just thinking about here
Okay.
was seamless implementation. Like, how much friction does it take to implement this offering?
Nice.
And I think what's interesting is it is, again, very, very low friction
Right.
to test and implement the YouAttest offering. And so that's, I know that when I speak to a lot of MSPs, they're like, okay, so what is it going to take from a process perspective? How much time do I need to devote this? What's the care and feeding as well?
Nice.
So this might be something to speak about as well. Just
Yeah.
again, the ease of implementation. How easy would it be to test this out? Again, that low friction, high impact that we're seeing here on the screen.
Yeah.
That's
Well, that's the
perfect.
point. The point of the product was it was all built so that it could be installed in 15 minutes, and that's the way it's built. Which is remember what's really relevant here, guys, is we're talking about people doing services around this product, services around the concept of access reviews, user recertification. No one on this call or in this company is talking about, hey, you're going to make a lot of money in your installation of this product because it's an 18th month procedure. That's the old school. That's that you basically, we go in together side and side and we bamboozle the customer to say, hey, you need this functionality and it's going to take 18 months to install. No. What we're saying here, Kashif, in real time, just show the installation screen of how you get this into an AD or an Azure AD or whatever. It takes 10 minutes. We get that going. Your repeated value and income to your customers is you're knocking out these user access reviews, what they're not doing, or they're doing haphazardly. So you're adding immense value, and then you become the adult in the room and start doing these instead of just yearly. They could do them quarterly and monthly on the key resources like the AWS and the other key controls. That's what the product is. It's not about bamboozling your customer into an 18-month install. It's a 0-day install. You get this thing installed right away, but you add value through the services. Take it away, Kashif. I know you were going to share something, so I decided to interrupt you just to see if you were paying attention.
No, I was just showing this MSP screen. This is the multi-tenant. I mean, the one I showed you before was a single tenant for one client, but here you have multiple of all your clients that you can manage from the same portal. And not only that, I mean, it lets you add license to each one of those customers' tenants. It lets you download reports, but it also lets you jump into each environment and manage that on behalf of your customer. So if you have this, just switch to the dashboard into a new client, and you will have their console. You have the tenant where you will be able to create audits. You'll be able to delegate audits and assign audits to the respective managers that they have. So these are three different tenants for three different customers, which you can manage from this single portal. And
Hey,
Bill can talk about more.
they could set up POCs too. They can
Oh yeah,
set up their little POCs.
yeah. By default, it sets up a POC with 100 licenses, right? But then when they have tested it and you want to convert it into a live account, you can do it right from here by adding licenses to that POC, and it becomes a live account.
Great.
And you can talk more about, how you've already done that, Bill. So sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah, how we build it. So, yep.
Well, thanks for that quick demo, Kashif. And so Eldon, do you want to tell the audience how you can be reached and how they can get your great book?
So probably the easiest way to get a hold of me is through LinkedIn, Eldon Sprickerhoff. There are not very many Eldons or Sprickerhoffs on LinkedIn. If you really want to get my attention, as Bill's attested, you can take my book. It's available at all fine purveyors of media in the
And Eldon,
21st
why don't you
century.
give us a few seconds about what the book's actually about?
Sure. So basically, I'm a tech first founder, and I discovered a lot of things with no MBA, just a couple of courses, like econ courses during university. And so sort of bootstrapped my knowledge of running a startup, made a lot of mistakes. And so the last 4 years, I've been working with an accelerator out of the Rogers Cybersecure Catalyst, TMU, Toronto Metropolitan University. And while I've been working with these startups, I was intended to be a technical resource. And so the startups would come to me and they'd book some time. And what I discovered was as a technical resource, I expected that, out of 10 questions, 8, 9 would be technical. As it turns out, 1 out of 10 was technical. 9 to 10 were all business pieces, right? How do I find a co-founder? How do I sell my product? How do I raise money? How do I fire people? How do I know if people are doing a good job, etc.? I'm burning out. What do I do? And so after going through a few of these cohorts of startups, and they're all asking the same questions over and over and over again. So I started writing them down. So I wouldn't so I'd have a TLDR or a FAQ that I could give people. And that sort of evolved into 50,000 plus words. And that's where committed came from. And so the double entendre is, if you're starting a company, you have to be committed to that company and do what it takes to make it succeed. And if you're starting a company, as Garrett can attest, you're a little crazy, and your friends and family might think you need to be committed. So there's at least 2 definitions in there, and the third is like
That's
a
really
database.
funny. I didn't get that. Thank you.
That was great.
Yeah, and then third, a database commit, right? So that there's got these transactions that are committed, right? So there was a lot that worked around it, but that was the idea. So it's a very personal, realistic look at what startup life is like, and what you need to succeed, and sort of call it survival startup tips and uncommon sense for first time tech founders. So that's basically many of the mistakes I made. And part of it is the story behind it is to be what I call a chief survival officer, to help recognize that it's going to be a real fight and what it takes to gain every inch of ground that you take. And the second is to be very explicit about the mistakes that I made and make different mistakes. And for that, I call be a mistake innovator. Don't make the same mistakes that I did. If you do recover faster, go on and make more interesting mistakes than the ones that I made on the way to success, however you define it.
There was
Great,
something
thanks
said
for
on
that.
LinkedIn by Peter Shavaker, which I love, and he's been on this Ghost here. And someone went on and he was ranting on founders and said, problem with companies is that the founders keep making mistakes. They don't know what they're doing. And Peter Shavaker get the greatest quote about it. He goes, strongly disagree. He goes, founders go from a state of ignorance to less ignorance, And
Yeah,
real
yeah.
humans like yourself, Eldon, pretty much said that. You're just being forthright with the community, which is great. Warts it all and saying, yeah, made mistakes, rock and roll. But
Yeah.
that's the journey, and because you're Eldon, and you stayed committed to the cause, and you didn't listen to what people said, like, and I love the Gartner story, that the space doesn't exist, and you stayed committed to your idea and committed to your team, because I know personally, that's the kind of guy you are. You're successful. So rock and roll.
Well, thank you. Thank you.
Yeah.
All right, well, wrapping up to reach YouAttest out there, to get a hold of me, you can go to sales@youattest.com or info@youattest.com. Thanks everybody for attending today, and thanks Eldon for your time. It was excellent.
Thanks a
Well,
lot,
thank you
Tim.
for the
Thank you.
opportunity.
All the best. Thank you.